checking in, going live tonight. We're going live tonight.
There we go.
Here we go.
That's how we do it.
Go. Welcome aboard, everybody. Welcome to Hawkwind's Radio Picture Show. My name is Jack Dwyer.
And I'm Jay Smooth.
Now, we have a really terrific show for you guys tonight. But for those of you who have never heard of Hawkwind's or have never tuned in before, welcome. Welcome aboard. We want to thank you. We want to let you know that we do this show every Wednesday night right here at Q4 Radio. And it's been quite a delight. We've been doing it for well over a year now. We've highlighted artists of all different mediums, including musicians, photographers, filmmakers, puppeteers, a little bit of everything. We've had it, even pro wrestlers, man.
Yeah.
But we encourage you guys, if you enjoy the show, please leave us a like, hit subscribe down below, maybe check out some of our other episodes as well. Also, this is a live taping of the show. I don't think people realize that. Every Wednesday, we come live right on YouTube. So if you are in the comment section, you want to leave us a little comment, let us know how you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions for us or our guests, please go in the comments. Let us know where you're coming from. And unless, of course, you're from Florida, yeah, enjoy the Stanley Cup. Yeah. 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 The only ice they got is in their frozen drinks.
Yeah.
What do I know?
They got iguanas over there.
They do have iguanas, and they freeze out of the trees. It's
and
wild.
they just fucking plop.
Ooh, the life of an iguana. That'd be a good life to live, though, on a resort.
You know, if you cut an iguana's tail, it'll grow back again.
I did know that.
Fucking wild.
Yeah. I wonder if people like collect them or anything. You know what I mean? Like, what does the iguana tail do after it's detached? You know?
Chat GPT.
Hey, in the chat, let us know what you would do with that iguana tail. Well, we have a really terrific show for you guys tonight. Our guest is one of my really good buddies. I met him at the Second City. He was in one of my writing classes. And from then on, we've just become really good pals. I've seen him throughout the years perform in all different places throughout Chicago. He is roots rock. He is blues. He's a little Americana. He's a little bit of everything. Everybody, please welcome to Hawkwind's Radio Picture Show, my very good friend, Matt Gandurski.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you. I see you performing everywhere, too. We crossed paths in weird ways. Was it NASCAR when I was playing and you were, like, carrying a paper dragon around?
I was the gigantic whale. I was the whale puppet.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That was so funny. I didn't have my glasses on, and I heard your voice. I was like, I think I recognize that guy. I think I know. And then over the microphone, you're like, hey, Jack.
Yep.
I'm like, huh? What up?
Yeah, and similarly, I was like, oh, crazy. There's like, a dude dragging a whale around. Oh, that's Jack. Of course that's Jack.
Of course it's Jack.
Welcome to Chicago, man. Oh, what can I say? Well, for those who have never heard of you, Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself. What kind of music are you into, and who are you as a person?
Oh, wow. Okay. I am, I guess loosely, let's call it roots or Americana. I like old music. Got my start playing music, when I was like a 10-year-old kid. I hit that really sweet spot between when Metallica and Guns N' Roses were kind of ruling the airwaves, and it was all spandex and hair, and then grunge and Nirvana and all that hit, and that was like right in my musical awakening. So that was the first kind of stuff I started just twiddling around the house with. Followed that into a hippie stint for a good 5 or 6 years, just listening to almost nothing but The Dead and Fish, which will get your chops up, I think that's what probably got me good at the instrument. I play guitar. And started performing very quickly after I dropped out of college, SIU Edwardsville. What were we? Cougars? I don't even remember. I did not do very well in college. And haven't looked back. Been performing out in the world for, it's almost 30 years now, right? Oh, my God. Yes. It's like 24, 25, 6 years.
And you're crushing it, man. You're all over town.
Yeah, crushing it's one way to say it. Surviving is another. But yeah, done a little bit of it all. Played for about 15 years in a kind of string project where it was just myself and another left-handed player. We were called the Northside Southpaws, doing really prototypical American music, like the earliest stuff there's this whole kind of really cool chunk of music that was recorded in like 1925, 1926, the sort of earliest American recordings that weren't classical or opera or things like that. It was when folks started bringing studio equipment down to the South and just paying guys, blues players, string players, fiddle, all that kind of stuff out of Appalachia. And they'd pay the guys, a half a bottle of whiskey to perform 5 songs, and then those people would never see a royalty again from it or whatever. And that's what sort of started the whole movement of Americana, blues, country, bluegrass, and all that stuff. So spent a long time studying that and sort of built, I guess, a career from there, moving into one of the bands I play in now is called the Lawrence Peters Outfit. I'll talk a bunch about that because that's a very active band. That's your kind of standard 50s and 60s like honky-tonk music. I always feel like I got to put a little asterisk on talking about country music because country radio has tainted the genre so much that I think people that are turned off by the trucks and troops and tan lines country of the radio, they don't see the difference between that and the old stuff, your Roger Millers, your Johnny Cash, your George Jones. So that's kind of where we're at in that world, 50s and 60s, straight up honky-tonk. And then from there, I've started a couple of my own bands, played in a few others. There's been probably a good baker's dozen throughout the years that have come and gone. And right now I'm doing it with a band that I front called Grit and the Double Knit. We had a very fun period where we were the backing band for a burlesque show, which you can imagine there's some visual elements that helped that show become popular.
Talk about a
we still play, we still play as a band, but it's without that element, it's not as much of a spectacle. And just plugging along. I still do solo gigs too, and those are usually just playing, not the hits, but some crowd pleasers and some deep cuts, but sports bars and all that. Those are survival gigs where you get your paycheck and you kind of move along.
Hey,
not necessarily being listened to, but it's fine.
You're doing the dream of living the art life, man.
Yeah.
That's a noble thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Now tell us, what do you think that Chicago has to offer when it comes to Americana and roots music?
Man, for one thing, it was a place where in that sort of second round of like what you had in about 1925, 1926, you had the trucks coming down to the South with the equipment and making records or recording these people and then heading back up to the cities to produce and distribute the records. And then sort of a second wave of artists coming up to places like Chicago, New York. Grafton, Wisconsin was actually a hub for blues. So here in Chicago, there was, besides obviously lively blues scene, we're known here in Chicago for the blues, there was actually a country scene made up of, folks from the South that emigrated up here and tried to start a scene, and also workers who emigrated from the South and needed entertainment and wanted the music to match the stuff they got into. So Chicago did have a country scene back in the day and was known for it. And it's always been a little under the radar, and it bubbles up and it comes back down. And when I joined it, I felt like I was about 26, 27 years old getting into the scene, and I felt like the young guy by a good 15, often 10, 15 years, the guys that were out there playing it. And now there's been this resurgence. Towns like Austin, towns like Nashville have become pretty hard to live in and hard to make it in, so a lot of folks are making their way up here to start over, and there's been this resurgence of young folks coming up and people in their 20s and 30s making the music again, and we've gotten this nice fresh blood here of new artists that are playing the old stuff and sticking to it, not changing it or not modernizing it necessarily. So there's always been a scene. I would say, you also had the late 90s where alt country emerged, and, Uncle Tupelo broke up in St. Louis, and then Wilco moved up here and kind of set this as their home base, and Bloodshot Records was really doing the thing, and a lot of really good records and country artists came out of here in that respect too. You got John Langford's a mainstay. After he was in the Mekons, he formed the Waco Brothers and started doing the country thing. And there's still, those same folks are still kind of out there, still, I don't know, the veterans of the scene. We still see each other at different events and fests and lots of shows.
Now, for those who are really interested in country music and Americana music, what are some of the best festivals that you'd recommend to them?
Well, the best. Before I talk about the one that we do here in Chicago, there was, and this is the first year that I haven't done it, but I suggest people look into the Ameripolitan, what would it be, the group or whatever it is. What essentially it was, this dude, Dale Watson, out of Austin, kind of a celebrity on the alt country scene. You know, he was one of the guys that's been doing it forever. He was like, fuck the Country Music Awards. It's all bullshit. It's all pop music. It's all this and that. So he started this whole thing called the Ameripolitan Awards, which was meant to highlight real honky-tonk, real bluegrass, real outlaw country, real western swing, and it grew over the past, over the past few years, where we were taking over Graceland and doing these big award ceremonies and kind of a whole takeover of Memphis venues. We take over part of Beale Street. That is a great place to start, just looking into some of the artists that are in that bubble, the Ameripolitan scene. Because that's the real deal, and those are the folks that are traveling the country, really doing the thing. Here in Chicago, it just so happens that this Sunday, the best fest, I think, of any that happen regionally, period, is called a Day in the Country Festival. This is year 17 that we've done it. This is my 16th. I did go to it as a spectator the first time, and that's what kind of made me like, oh, shit, I got to get into this. I saw Kelly Hogan sing. If you don't know Kelly, she was a contemporary of like Nico Case and Mavis Staples, and she sings with the Decemberists and Andrew Bird and all these folks. But she was doing a country set, and it stopped me in my tracks on the dance floor. Like, I was like, what is that? And just chills. And I was like, this is really cool. I want to be a part of this. And I was, the next year, I joined the band of the dude who organizes the festival, Lawrence Peters, and made sure I've been a staple in the fest since. So that is this Sunday. It has been at the Hideout for the first 16 years. We actually moved the fest this year to a new spot called Broken Hearts Bar. They are, in the grand scheme of things, brand new as a venue in Chicago. They're down in the West Loop, a little off the beaten path, Lake Street and Monroe, right off the Monroe L-stop. But it's bigger, slightly younger crowd. There was no bad blood to leave the Hideout. It was just we had some better sponsorship options and stuff there. So that's coming up this Sunday. It's an all-day fest. It starts doors at 11, ends at 11. I'll be playing in 3 groups at that. I started a string band this year called the Otter Paw String Band. We're playing second at like 1:40, I think, 1:40 p.m. The Lawrence Peters outfit always kind of slots ourselves into a really sweet spot right before the headliner. So I'll be doing that set. And then right after, it's not a traditional end of the night headliner. It's kind of like the swell of the crowd is always at like 7, 8 p.m. So I'm actually playing right after that with a dude named Pat Reedy, who is one of those guys who migrated here from Texas, Nashville, whatever, to kind of plant some roots here in Chicago and get it going. So yeah, I'm doing triple duty. There are 12 bands total, ranging from string bands to bluegrass to honky-tonk to western swing, edging into alt country, rock and roll, and there's pie, there's barbecue, there's booze sponsorships, and it's seriously one of the funnest days. For us musicians, what makes it fun is it's got this backstage vibe that I've never been. I was not at at the Grand Ole Opry in the 1960s. I can't tell you exactly what it was like, but it's got to feel something like that to see the collaboration happening and to see the bands rehearsing real quick or saying, hey, do you want to sing harmony with me? Let's practice over in the corner. And there's just this real camaraderie. It's one of the times when all of us country bands in Chicago are like together at once, hanging out, drinking, having a good time. And I think that reflects in what comes out on the stage because everybody's loose and happy in general.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of people will say that too, is just having that camaraderie of just being in that back room, just even to be a fly on the wall, just to watch all the collaboration going along. You know, what would you really like to see in the Chicago music scene to really put country music up onto another platform going forward in the city?
I think it's happening. I don't know with technology and with everything right now, it's hard to say what that next platform is. So what's happening now, this sort of slow growth collaboration, we step on each other's feet a lot. There's a little bit of that where we've got our show here and someone else has their show there and we're splitting crowds and stuff like that. But that's a better problem than not having a crowd at all, right? So, yeah, it would be cool if we were a little more organized with that, but there's not a huge way to do that. So, like, yeah, I think it's just kind of cranking along as is and hopefully stays growing. And these venues, I mean, that's the important part is the venues have to believe in it and keep it going too. And that can be tough in economic turmoil, which I believe last I checked, we are in a bit of. So yeah, as long as the venues can keep having us, we're going to keep growing it.
And having all you guys under one roof is really important too, right?
Yeah. Like I said, it's nice to just have everybody together. The dancing is always great too. I'm not a dancer. You got to get me pretty drunk. But there is this whole contingent of folks that'll take over the dance floor with the two-stepping and the twirling and the fancy stuff, and that adds such a cool element too, because that's all ages. That's like the young kids are doing it, the older folks. That's what gets them out to the shows, and it makes it a little more spectacle. It gets people into it a little more.
People dress up for it too, right?
Oh, yeah.
You see a lot of cow folk out there.
Yeah, we thought we might have been helpful to the boon of, if you know, Alcala is just up the street here, right? That's the main Western wear, spot in the Midwest. I mean, it's the spot. And we always thought, oh man, there must be a big bump in Western wear sales when we do these festivals because everybody comes out dressed to the nines. But then Beyonce, I think, took our record maybe this year, as she does, because Alcala's was like, on Instagram, like, this was the best week we've ever had because everybody at those shows went. But that's what's cool is, like, now Beyonce's playing country. Like, it's something for people to get into, even if there's no better way to say it, but even if the music itself is, like, a turnoff to them historically or, like, meaning, like, when you say country music to someone, they have a picture in their head, and often it is that radio country, like, tan lines and trucks and stuff. But
not so much urban cowboy.
Right. But just getting people out and having them, if they come out just because they want to look good, great. They came out and maybe they did discover, oh, I like this. I'm dancing to this. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was wild seeing all the Beyonce fans going over to Soldier Field the other day. I was working downtown and I was like, why are there so many cowboy hats everywhere? People getting off the train line with cowboy hats. I was like, what? Am I in Tejas right now? Nope, good old Chicago, baby.
Yeah, and that's how playing shows at this Broken Heart spot has felt. You're getting a bit. It's not like a total West Loop like rich kid crowd, but it's some of that. And they're coming out in their boots and their hats and their little skirts and dresses and all that stuff. And it just adds a cool element to it.
We have a couple comments coming here. Lawrence Peters says Broken Heart is at Lake and Morgan. Thanks, Lawrence. Appreciate it, Larry.
What did I say? Ooh, don't call him Larry. He gets mad.
Larry, sorry, Larry.
What did I say? I said
Lawrence.
Lake and Morgan, didn't I?
Yeah. That's what you said. Maybe you said Monroe.
Quit correcting me, Dad.
Speaking of dads, my dad also commented too. He said, ask him what it's like playing at the Blue Island Beer Company. It's on his hit list to go to.
Oh, man. I got good. I'm good friends with Alan that runs the Blue Island Beer Company because I am a Southsider. And that is one of the cooler spots down by us. I live in Beverly, but Blue Island's they're beating us up a little bit culturally. They got some really cool spots, the Rock Island Public House, and then Alan's spot, the Blue Island Beer Company. The last time I played there was one of the funner shows I've played, simply because it was a cannabis-friendly comedy event with Chad the Bird. I don't know if you've ever done, what do they do at the Green Mill? The Paper Machete?
Oh, yeah.
So it was kind of some of the folks that do that show. It almost felt like Paper Machete South, and except it was cannabis friendly. As long as you had a ticket to it, doors were closed. You could smoke weed indoors. And as I walked in, that podcaster I mentioned to you, friend of mine, Mr. Weedman, had a booth, and what he was doing at his booth was simply rolling everyone he talked to their own personal joint. Wow. So after I talked to Boot, I had my own joint. I went to go set up on the stage as I smoked it, and then I had to play a show just obliterated, stoned. And people were paying attention. It was one of those, like, I thought we were the background band that was just playing a couple songs, like playing bumper music for the comedians, right? That's the impression that I had. And instead they're like, oh no, you're playing like a 25-minute set to open the thing. And I'm like, oh, I don't know the words to my songs, though. This is going to be hard. But it was a blast. I love Al. I love what he's doing there. And he's bringing some really good talent down to the South Side, which I also aspire to do, as we will talk about.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it, man. I think that's one of the funny things that we bonded on immediately. We were both like, we were like, oh, I'm a cop kid from the South Side. And you were like, I'm a cop kid from the South Side.
Oh, my God, we might be related.
We're like cousins.
Yeah.
So tell us, what's your experience like as a musician out on the South Side? And what would you really like to see that part of town really flourish in the music scene?
Man. Let's see. We're getting into it.
Let's unload it, baby.
I am a bit frustrated with the art scene on the South Side as a part of it. I am one of the organizers, the people that helps organize. Shout out to the homie Donnie Biggins, who currently runs Robert's West Side out in Forest Park. He was a really great, almost mentor in scene building and seeing how someone can really build a neighborhood and kind of focus attention onto an arts venue, which he did with Tonic Room when he took over, turned it into the Golden Dagger, really kind of had a nice run with that. He was the guy who really built, if you're familiar with Fitzgerald's out in Berwyn, sort of built. That's such an old joke. I hope people still get that. But
oh, they do. Our guys.
Yeah, sure. You didn't say you had a Svenguliite just last week or something?
Last week, yeah.
So that's fresh.
I left my rubber chickens at home, though. Sorry.
So
Fitzgerald's and Berwyn.
They're sort of the flow that they have for their shows is you have the inside bar, you have the patio, and you have the main venue, and it's kind of constantly going. Like there's always people rotating in and out of shows there, and he was sort of the architect behind that. And also just a really good and scrupulous, right? That's the good one, not unscrupulous. He has scruples. He's a good concert promoter, which can be tough to find. And there was a point where he had this thing called office hours, where he would just be like, "Hey, if you have a question about the music industry, something you're trying to do, come on in. We'll sit down, shoot the shit." And I did so, and it was all about like, "Hey, I'm back in Beverly. I moved back there from North and living in Bridgeport, Pilsen, and all these places." Because I had to buy a house and raise a family, and there's not many places in Chicago to do that that are affordable. So I'm back in Beverly. I'm realizing, whoa, this is not what it used to be when I was in my 20s. I mean, I'm sure you remember the Western Avenue of yore, where it was like 17 and up, underage kids even, piling out of those bars every night. And you could see a hip-hop DJ. You could see a bluegrass band, Leadfoot every Tuesday. And there was multiple places to go out and kind of know what you were getting into. And it's really dead now. There have been times when I've gone to hit up the Western Strip and found myself as one of the youngest people out. And I'm 45 years old, and that there is no excuse for that. So I kind of talked to Donnie about like how do we start building up the scene? What do we do? How do I get into it? And he said, join some arts organizations, find out who's doing stuff, and get in with them and start helping out. That's exactly what I did. Teamed up with the folks at the Beverly Area Arts Alliance, who do really cool work that I would say is probably the hippest stuff that goes on down there. A lot of art galleries, a lot of music events. We do 3 or 4 sort of, like we do a solstice event every summer that just passed over this last weekend. We do a winter art event, but our main thing is this thing called the Beverly Art Walk, and it's just an all-day thing. September 27th this year. This is my 3rd year booking all the music for it, and we place music in different venues throughout the art walk. So you might walk into a shoe store, but there's art hanging everywhere, and there's a band playing in the corner, or a coffee shop, or whatever. And then it all kind of coalesces down at Nicky's of Beverly, if you've been. The new Nicky's used to be a sandwich spot on 103rd and Western. They built a new spot on the wet side. That's always the weirdest thing about Beverly is half of the neighborhood full of Irish drunks is you can't buy booze. It's the drinkingest neighborhood there is, and half of it is literally dry. Everything east of Western Avenue, including the east side of Western Avenue. So he moved to the west side of Western, and has really, Nicky's been doing some really cool stuff. They'll block off the parking lot for us and let us throw a big party. And I've got some pretty good artists lined up this year. Last year we had Serengeti come out. if you know Bears, Hawks, Sox, Bulls guy.
Oh yeah.
Dennehy is the
Denny,
tune. He's
favorite
great.
actor, Denny.
Yeah. So he came and closed out the show for us last year. That was really cool. And it wasn't just that campy South Side kind of vibe stuff. I mean, he's a really great rapper and producer too. Minor Moon, a band that's kind of blowing up out of maybe call it the cosmic country scene that's going on, a little more psychedelic, trippy, but still rooted in roots music. I had them the year before. And that's a really fun group to work with because we get to bring some stuff that Beverly doesn't normally see. I also do a lot of the stuff that Beverly does normally see. So I work with the Beverly Arts Center, and that's a little more neighborhood oriented. I book a lot of tribute bands. I try to make them cool. Tom Petty, Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Wonder, stuff like that. That still interests me, but obviously we can't book Stevie Wonder at the Beverly Arts Center, so it's going to have to be a cover band. And yeah, just started moving in those circles and starting to see how it all works. And now I'm pretty comfortable there, and we're getting it done. Beverly's a place where you have to be very careful not to push the envelope too hard. Kind of people are kind of like what they like down there, and are fairly set in that without too much challenge. But it's not art unless you're challenging a little bit, right? Art is supposed to, comfort the disturbed and disturb the comforted.
I like that.
So that's always in mind, is like, don't push too hard, but push, right? So that's what we're doing down on the south side.
Yeah, I as a fellow Southsider too, I totally understand that, that neighborhood. It's a wonderful place to grow up, great place to raise a family. It's so great, but culturally and artistically, it's very conservative, and really outside of Beverly Arts Center, you really don't see it that much. Most young men who grow up where we come from, you're expected to be a cop, fireman, work in the blue collar trades or something. And arts wasn't always a really viable option to it, And I just want to congratulate you on bringing it to keeping it alive in that area, man.
I appreciate you. There's a couple quotes that actually really pertain to this. And John C. Reilly is a Southsider too. He was like a Garfield Ridge guy.
He went to Brother Rice.
Yeah, totally. I went to St. Rita, so we're a rival. That whole Catholic league. We could talk all day about whose football team's the best. He had a quote on a podcast that I listened to that it was one of those where I had to pause it and go oh dude, what the fuck? But he said, growing up on the south side of Chicago is constantly being asked, who the fuck do you think you are? And it really is. And then the other quote that comes to mind comes my good friend, old pal, I'll name Kenny. One of the finest smartasses to run into on the bar on the south side. Just one of those guys who's got a line for everything. And I was standing with him, just shooting shit, and a friend of ours, and this was 20 years ago, but still, a friend of ours walked up and handed him a flyer and he goes, hey man, come on out, I got a gig next Friday. And he goes, what the fuck is a gig? Get a job, you junkie. So balancing those attitudes a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And being taken seriously as an artist can be tough. There's this oh, you're a little band. How's your little band doing? And it's like, no, this is real, dude. You got to come to the show and help.
Right.
So always struggling with that, but we're doing fine. Right now, the Art Center, we're kicking our Music Monday program, which is bands in the courtyard every Monday, and it's growing every week. Started out with about 150 people in the first one, and we got up to 270 at the last one.
Oh wow!
So we're doing it. We're getting it done. Yeah.
It's like we were saying, it is such a weird cultural thing. And I remember reading a lot about, a lot of our other fellow artists out there, and they were kind of having some issues with some of the bars, even on Western Avenue, of just having noise ordinances and trying to keep it low. And outside of the Beverly Arts Center, I know there's Heart Saloon. Shout out Hearts.
Shout out Hearts.
What other big places do you think that are out there that is a good hub and a good place to perform music? And if not, when are we going to get one, man?
Right. That's part of it too. That's where, I'll say it, Blue Island's kind of kicking our ass a little bit, because Alan and the Blue Island Beer Company they're doing it. They're putting some good shows together. Also, the Lyric Theater is kind of, because they're you know, some of the constraints at the Beverly Arts Centers were not for profit. There's not a ton of money flowing in, whereas when you got a little more commerce flow, you can do more. And the Lyric is throwing a lot of good shows too, and that's now the competition, I guess. But Nikki's, there was a setback last year, and I'm kind of waiting to see how it plays out this year. But that was the hub, and in fact, one of the last solo gigs I played at Nikki's, which it was great. They were paying good money, and you would just go play tunes out in the patio. People would dig it. They'd tip you. They'd hang out, buy beers, whatever. It was a good scene. And the last time I played it, it really felt exactly like what you're saying. Like, what's the hub? Because the Art Alliance has their gallery space on the grounds of Nikki's. There's like a garage, and the Alliance turned it into an art gallery and a patio. To sit in. So now there's sort of a secondary patio at Nikki's. You can still order food and stuff, but you're in a different space with more art, music, and as I'm playing the gig, I'm seeing like there's like a couple friends of mine are in a band, and they're grabbing equipment out of the garage and loading it up to go play. You know, they're borrowing some mics and stuff. And then visual artist Nate Otto, he does a lot of murals around the city. He's a great artist. He lives down there. He's married to a good friend of mine. He kind of slid through, and it was just like it hit me in the feels of like, ooh, we have a little art hub. Like, there's artists here among the public. And a week after that, somebody pulled a noise complaint, and it stuck. And Nikki's had to shut down basically everything for the rest of the year. There was and there's nothing you could do. You can't be getting strikes on your liquor license in Chicago. Everybody knows that's like worse than. It's like worse than getting arrested. Like, that sticks with you. It sticks with the building, actually. So they had to shut it down, and the patio music, for the most part, went away. They still do the bigger stuff where they'll get permits. They'll get all the insurance and block off the parking lot and do that thing. But it's definitely, it put a little dent in that scene vibe. So we're working on it.
I'd love to see it, man. Cause yeah, like, you know, I when I first started out there doing comedy stuff, I was, like you said, you know, you go up to somebody with the flyer and you're like, hey, come see my show. I was doing comedy shows back then. People were like, oh, you're a comedian? Like, tell me a joke. Like, who the fuck are you? You like you were saying. One time, I even remember posting flyers on Western Avenue. Somebody ripped off my flyer, crumbled it, threw it in the urinal. And I went and I pissed on my own flyer. And I was like, if this isn't a humbling experience, man, you know, I don't know what is. But, you know, what do you think it's going to take to bridge that gap between the locals and the musicians,
That's
man?
the thing,
and
dude.
the artists?
That's every board meeting, every thing we do is trying to find that. And we're getting a little better at it, you know, every year. But we haven't punched through yet. You know what I mean? And I don't know what it'll take, because another thing about the South Side is when COVID hit, everybody built a bar in their garage. And, you know, why go out when you can sit in your garage and listen to the music you want, watch the game you want, drink the cheap beer you bought at the store, and it's not that day. You can have your homies over, and then you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So, and even, you know, we compete with sports. I mean, there will be more people at St. Cajetan's 7th grade football game than come out to some of the shows that we throw down there. And that's always been as well. That's kind of part of the social scene down there. So yeah, it's hard to say. Because the other thing down there, like, I mean, if you're raising money to help cops get vests, packed, right? Or if you're raising money for a sick kid, packed. Beverly's really good at coming out for causes. Not always for entertainment. And I get it, man. I got kids. Babysitters are expensive, you know. My generation all has. I only have 2 kids, and I feel like I'm not caught up because the Irish rabbits down on the South Side are 4 and up, you know. It's like 4's a small family. So I get it, and we do what we can. I don't know if it's going to be a punch-through thing or just slow growth and just keep hacking away.
Well, keep at it, man. You know, with the Beverly Arts Walk, that's one really great way to kind of introduce somebody to that scene and say, hey, this is right in your backyard, man. don't go looking too hard. It's right here.
Same. And I think, it does also, I like bringing some of my North Side friends down to stomp the stigma of what Beverly sometimes represents. And I'm saying Beverly because that's where I'm from, but you have the greater far southwest side, which is Beverly, Morgan Park, Mount Greenwood, Evergreen Park, although we start to get out into the suburbs. But even just the 19th Ward, let's say, there are multiple swaths of people. There's working class, mixed race. There's rich folks in one swath, and then there's kind of start getting west into Mount Greenwood, and you basically have working class white folks, right? And we don't get the best reputation down there because there's been a lot of just racial bullshit and stuff that a lot of residents of the neighborhood are not proud of that has happened down there, and that's the stuff that gets out, and then everybody goes, "Oh, Beverly, you fucking bunch of racists," and it's like, no, God damn it, it's not. There are some, and we are fighting them every goddamn day. But so the art walk and things like that do also help me to bring some of my artist friends down and go, look, we're friendly. It's a cool place to visit, right? You're not going to get punched in the face for not being from the neighborhood. Where when I was in my 20s, you would,
God forbid if you're a Cubs fan out there.
Even that has eased up after they won the series, man. I think there's no stopping it, right?
Okay.
I was a Cubs fan in the late 80s because of Reinsdorf and the TV blackout. He pulled the Sox. Jerry Reinsdorf pulled when cable TV was starting to become a thing. Of course, one of the wise decisions that Sox ownership has made over the years, because we know they're the best. He pulled the Sox off of regular, Channel 579 and put them on cable, so you couldn't watch Sox games in I'm going to say 87 to 89, 90. You couldn't see a Sox game unless you had cable, and my folks didn't, but you could always see the Cubs on WGN. So there was definitely a lot of Cubs fans coming out of my generation just because that's what we saw. And we had that sweet Cubs team. They weren't a winning team, but you had your Ryan Sandberg, Andre Dawson, Mark Grace, and that crew. Yep, Sammy Sosa coming in. Yeah, he was Sox first, though, I believe.
Was he?
Yeah.
They should allow steroids in baseball. Sorry.
That was another fun one for me. I was a freshman in college in the St. Louis area when the McGuire and Sosa thing was going on, and that was really fun to be a Chicagoan amongst the enemy, cheering for the Cubs.
Arguably saved baseball.
Maybe. Yeah. That was a fun era, despite the controversy. That was a good time.
It's a non-contact sport. I don't see what the
get as big as you want, dude.
Right? Just don't kill anyone.
Or how about one guy per team? That would be kind of fun.
Right.
Just let one guy per team, just HGH and steroids all the way, and then he's like the designated monster. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
I'd buy that ticket. I would for sure buy that ticket. Damn. Yeah, I get it if it's like football, hockey, something. Probably not the best idea to do steroids.
You're gonna hurt somebody.
Baseball, you're not gonna kill anyone. Hopefully.
Nah, man, we need more fighting in sports, man. If everything was like hockey, just beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
I'd watch. I don't even like hockey, but I tune in just to watch people fight each other.
Let the players police the game,
No, baseball, you get a little bit of that. You know,
Oh.
fuck around, you're getting hit with the ball next inning, and then benches might clear. That's always fun.
Who could forget the infamous Cubs-White Sox brawl? That was something for the ages.
Oh, immortalized. And my homie, AJ Pierzynski, my favorite. He was my favorite of the 05 Sox because he was just the shit-talkingest human being on earth.
Yeah.
And I loved every minute of it.
He was a big dude, too. He
Yeah.
could back it up. What was he, like 6'4", 6'5"?
He's a big dude.
Big dude.
You guys remember when the Sox won the World Series? What were you guys doing? Did you guys watch the game?
I was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think I was in like 6th grade when that happened. My mom was a cop at the time, too, and it was kind of cool. She brought us downtown. We got to go celebrate. And she flashed her badge to get us into like this area.
That's what it's about.
South Side, you got RHIP is the acronym, Ranking Has Its Privileges.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of cops have flashed their badge to get into stuff. And I remember we went downtown and we were like right up along the parade route. and there was this dude shooting confetti out of the cannon, like in a bus stop. And my mom, flashed the badge, and she's like, "Let my boys in." And we all got to like go in there and feed confetti into the cannon. So it was fun. It was a good time.
That's awesome.
Where were you guys during that time?
I forgot what grade I was in. I was still in grade school, but I remember that happened, and like everybody was just like, I forgot if it was that. I forgot if it was like a weekend or not. But I remember when we went back to school, everybody was just wearing like White Sox like stuff. We were all kids. Nobody gave a crap about baseball, but for some reason it was like a really big event. So we're just like, yeah, White Sox. We love the White Sox.
Home team.
Yeah.
Well, my old ass was at a bar because I was like 20. God, well, it's 25. Yeah, because that was 05. I was born in 1980. I was at Keegan's. Wonderful bar on the south side, has now been remodeled into, and it's funny because it's called Barney Callahan's now, but for some reason it takes me at least 45 seconds not to call it Patty McGillicuddy's or something because it's just such like, it feels like an Irish college bar name, Mm-hmm. But, and they remodeled. This was like a kind of the spot. It was next to Cork and Kerry. Cork and Kerry is like the bar everybody knows down on Western. Next door you had Keegan's, which was this just dark Irish pub, low ceilings, everything you want in your favorite bar. So I was at Keegan's watching the game, but I had a pinched nerve in my neck, and I was in excruciating pain. Like, I could barely move my head. I was on a bunch of muscle relaxers, Vicodins, whatever. So my friends dragged me out, and they kind of propped me into a corner where I could see the TV, and just like had a Miller Lite in my hand, just like propped against the wall. And then I remember like the moment, the game ended, we won, all that pain went away. I'm sure the Vicodin muscle relaxers and 9 or 10 Miller Lights helped. But we took over Western Avenue. We were running up and down. It was crazy times. And it was very reminiscent of the old Bulls championships when we were kids. I got to see 6 of them. Same thing. I was a 10-year-old kid on my bike riding up and down Western Avenue screaming and yelling and hooting and hollering. So it was that again. And that was cool, man. We were just grown men crying, all that stuff, man,
Right. I think that's maybe one of my favorite Chicago tropes. Whenever I give my tours, people always ask, like, what is it actually like? I'm like, the scenes in like Blues Brothers or like Ferris Bueller where everyone's dancing in the streets. I'm like, it's so 150% accurate. Like you any championship, any reason to go out and celebrate in the streets, even if it's a protest or something, it's the community, it's the city as a whole, it's the heartbeat of the city coming out and celebrating and joining arm in arm and spilling beer on each other. It's a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
Like when the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup or whatever the fuck.
I was raging those nights.
See, I was an old man sitting in my apartment in Bridgeport, sticking my head out the door and going, woo! And hearing all the fireworks going off and pots and pans and stuff. But yeah, I didn't party super hard for those. There was one where I was in the fucking car. I was driving home from work trying to get to the bar to catch the end of the game, and it ended while I was in the car listening on the radio, and I had nothing. I just honked my horn to no one.
Reason to celebrate in the streets, man.
Gotta do something, yeah.
Right. You a big sports guy?
Not huge. I dig them, and I try to do my best to keep up so that I can keep my kids, interested and stuff. So I have the obligatory black box, cable box, not illegal at all, where I get the unpaid pay-per-view and all the MLB and NHL. I get all those channels, so I try to throw that stuff on in the background just to keep up and know what's going on, so that I can force it into my kids' heads and make them better at sports, as any good dad should. And it's funny, it doesn't click as much. Like, my kid wants to get better. He's like, I want to be a good pitcher. And I'm like, here's what we do. We're going to watch YouTube videos of all the best. You'll see. And he's like, well, no, I don't want to do that. And it's like, but that's how you fucking do it, dude. So I'm working on that. It turns out video games help. And even my kid's 8. My oldest kid is 8. So like a game like The Show, like PlayStation, MLB, like that's so complicated. Like, which 4-seam curveball do you want to throw? Like, that's almost too much to throw to a kid. So I got one of those Nintendo emulators, and bases loaded, dude, all day.
There you go. Are you trying to teach your
no,
kids?
Not baseball. Baseball Stars, the one where you can make your own team. I got my kid on that. He's got his own little team going, and it changed the way he thinks about baseball, and he got so much better just from playing that. It's funny.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's more hands-on then, compared to just sitting there watching a YouTube video of some dude he has no
Right.
recognition of,
Right.
It's cool. It's different when you do it firsthand, hands-on. Are you teaching them music at all?
Again, trying. There's a theme in my family, and I've given up on it, which is nobody wants to learn anything from dad. And it's not just my kids, my wife too. If I have some piece of perfect wisdom to fit a problem she has, it's like I have to throw a curveball and let it bounce off the wall and get to her, because if I go direct, she just... So, and same with my kids. The standard response is like, I already know that, Dad. And it's like, well, go fuck myself then. Like, sorry, I've been on this planet for 45 years and have played this sport. And, I made it through junior varsity at St. Rita playing baseball, but I was kind of more of a musical stoner. And it just, that part of town is very intense with the competition. And I just sort of figured out, like, I'm going to be doing a lot of work and a lot of time to essentially ride the bench. And I let it go. But I did play through sophomore year. And I retained some of it. I coach my kids, and it's funny, once in a while I'll like remember some innate skill that, I'll grab some T-ball kid and go, the ball's going to come to you when he hits it, like watch. And it does every time, because you can see like their stance and all that stuff. So some of it's still there.
Your dad is wise beyond his years, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
But they got any inclination to pick up an instrument or anything?
I leave them around for them. Santa this year just so happened to buy an electronic drum kit and an electric guitar. And those just exist in my music space for the kids to play with, which they do. My son is more of a maniac noisemaker, where my daughter will sit and figure out a beat. That's kind of how their personalities work. So like when she sat at the drums, she really figured out like a little 4 on the floor beat and started doing it. And I was like, okay, you're the drummer. But again, I bring it up once in a while, like, hey man, you guys want to learn some of this stuff? I know a guy that can teach you. And they're like, Dad, I'm already pretty good at drums. And it's like, all right, dude, fine. So it'll happen. It's got to be something their friends bring up or something. Again, something outside of me, whether it's pop culture, a movie, a show. My son, well, both of them really, they're both really into dance. They both dance at the Beverly Arts Center. My son's super into hip hop, and what was the Lego Pharrell movie?
Oh yeah.
If you've seen that, so good. Any adults who don't have kids and haven't seen that, what's it called? Piece by Piece, I think.
I think so, yeah.
It's so fucking good, and it's got a lot of Easter eggs for adults, right? Because it's just like Pusha T and Kendrick and Snoop are in it, and all these people, but they're Legos, so it's innocent, but like they get it in. The room's full of smoke in Snoop's office. They just don't say why. But I love that movie because it got me into a mode of thinking about production and going, oh my God, Pharrell produced everything. Like you forget that. You could do the same with Jay Dilla. You could do the same with Madlib, So that's now how I curate my hip hop playlist is I go, produced by Madlib, and then you go like that. And that got my son especially super into he wants to be a rapper. And I can sit and fart around with him and make beats and stuff on Ableton. And they're not good, but he enjoys it. So more of those movies, please, Hollywood.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I'd love to see those. How do you think that you're raising your kids a bit differently compared to how you grew up on the South Side? Are you exposing them to more of the art scene than you were brought up, or?
For sure. My parents were different too. They weren't your run-of-the-mill South Side parents, so I got exposed to some art and stuff. My dad, who was a cop and was a ranking cop towards the end, he retired in 2003 as deputy superintendent. He was chief of detectives during an era where Chicago had a lot of detective work to do. That was a rough patch, the late 90s especially. But he became a filmmaker and an actor, like right after that. He jumped into that. So he kind of did the reverse of me, which was I went for art straight out of the gate with no backup plan. He went for backup plan, raising a family, military cop and all that. And then he now has like a pilot sitting on the desks of some folks at A&E. He might end up with a little cop show here in Chicago.
Wow.
He's produced a couple movies that I've been in inadvertently because he calls me and tells me, hey, come over. I need your help with something. And usually that's like, I need you to hold this light while I do an audition, or I need you to read the other side of the script for this audition. And this one was, I get over to his house like expecting that, and he has me in a makeup chair for 2.5 hours getting all my tattoos removed. And I was like, you couldn't have wrote the scene for a guy with a long sleeve shirt. Like, but yeah, and then he'll just stick me in a movie and be like, yeah, you're in this now. It's done. We already sent it to all the festivals and whatever. And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So arts were always important. He was a guitar player. He was left-handed. He's why I'm left-handed playing guitar. You know, I would have had that choice had I not picked up his guitar so young, because a lot of lefties can do that when they pick up an instrument. They can play righty. I didn't. I was already so used to this. And they've been really supportive. They've both my parents, you know, they would come down when I dropped out of college, which I'm sure they weren't thrilled about, but they would come down to see my bands play. They would come down to support and kick me a couple bucks, take me to dinner, hose me off. And yeah, so I'm definitely trying to keep that alive with my kids. Just make sure I'm there, make sure I'm honoring the things they're interested in without inserting my opinion too much, you know? And I think the big difference, and I would say this is just generational, is I feel like we're the first parents to apologize to our kids when we fuck up, right? Like, because I fuck up all the time. Yeah. But it is, like, I'll lose my cool and then pull whichever kid I'm chastising aside and be like, listen, man, I'm sorry I lost my cool. Let's talk about what we can do to make this not happen again. Whereas that, I mean, I don't think that happened for anybody. It's not like I got the shit kicked out of me when I was a kid, but there was discipline a lot more than there sort of is now.
Especially with authoritarian parents and like that, you know, it's what they say goes.
Yes.
I think kids are much more tuned with their emotions these days too.
Hard.
So they receive it more.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we are too as parents, and they can see that. You know, they've seen me get emotional. I still, to this day, haven't really seen my parents get overly emotional about anything. You know, I've seen my mom sort of blubber a couple times, not quite burst into tears, but choke up. But really, yeah, they were, you know, they're boomers, and they were a pretty repressed generation after all the hippie shit. My parents weren't hippies; they were normies or whatever you want to call it, squares. So yeah, they were pretty repressed, and they weren't. And my mother's the middle of 7 Irish boys. You know, she's the middle, kind of the middle child, and the only girl. So, I mean, yeah, you can't expect.
She's got middle kid syndrome.
She's got middle kid. She's got hardcore middle kid syndrome. And yeah, my dad's like a stoic cop. You know, they don't show emotions, whereas I do feel like we as parents, as a generation, but certainly my wife and I strive to keep emotional, what would you call it? Whatever. We try to stay in tune, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned your tattoos earlier. I always thought those were one of your coolest features when I first met you. I was like, oh my God, I love Shel Silverstein, man. You think we can get a tattoo tour real quick?
Surely. So my tattoos started out being a 20 some odd when I started doing this guitar player. I wanted the standard thing of like, I want you to be able to see my tattoos when I play my guitar. So I started with this little, you know, if anyone who's a fan of Shel Silverstein, the poet, which is A Light in the Attic, Where the Sidewalk Ends, Falling Up, all these other things. Huge fan from when I was a kid, but I also love some of the songs he wrote. He wrote some really good country songs.
Boy Named Sue.
And he wrote for Playboy for a long time too. He had two sides for sure. He was a kid's poet who wrote a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff that adults can laugh at, but also he was in the world of like Playboy and all that stuff. So I got this guitar. This is from a poem called My Guitar, and that's supposed to be the one you see on the strumming hand. And then I got these fish eating each other, and that's supposed to be the one you see on the fretting hand, right? And then I saw some pictures of myself playing, and I was like, you can't see those at all. So then I was just like, well, fuck it, let's fill it up. So I turned this into like a sleeve of Shel, which honestly was, I feel like, almost more of an economic decision than anything. Like, what sleeve can you afford for like $60 at a time? Because every one of these took 45 seconds, right? You just go, here, give me 4 of them today. And they just go, meh. All right, you're done. Give me $125. And it's like, yay. So that's how I filled that out. There wasn't super deep meaning behind each of them. I would just go through the books and kind of find like a cool image or 2 or 3 or 4 and bring them in. I had to like the poem, you know what I mean? Like I'd definitely read the poem and be like, okay, that's cool. But it wasn't like, oh, each one of these means so much to me, you know? But yeah, that's the vibe there.
Did he have a pretty big impact on you as an artist growing up?
Maybe not that I noticed at the time, but I think that stuff bleeds in. The idea of humor mixed with art, right? Because all his poems were so funny, and which leads me into some of the artists I like the most, guys like John Prine, where his song will have something funny in it and then something just devastating following right after it, or a turn of phrase that'll make you laugh in the middle of the saddest song you've ever heard. That definitely, I would say, came from Shell and that kind of vibe.
The light through the grim, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about, you know?
His books are edgy too. I was actually reading one the other day because my girlfriend didn't believe me. I'm like, they're kind of like rough at times. There's this one with like this track group and they're like dodging lions. They're like jumping over like like pits of big spikes hanging out, you know? Like they were a lot edgier than people remember. Go back and read Shel Silverstein.
Yeah.
Adults. Yeah.
It's funny. There's like this pushback on the Giving Tree now.
Yeah.
Because you look at that book and it's really great, but now, you know, in our sort of more modern, expanded consciousness of you know, stewarding the earth and all that stuff, it's like, that kid was a fucking dick to that tree.
He's a total dick. He's a total
so
dick.
there is like, once in a while, you'll catch like a Instagram reel or something where somebody's changing it and the tree has boundaries. And it's like, the tree's like, listen, kid, I support you, but I'm not killing myself for you. So it's kind of funny too. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, that one especially, you know, it's especially now that everyone has empathy, you go back and you reread these things and it's you see it through a different light nowadays. I think before people were like, oh, I am the tree as a parent and I must give all this to a big kid. But then, like you said, you got to have some fucking boundaries.
You got to
Maybe
keep
we
a
should
little.
rewrite
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, you can't keep giving if you give it all, right? Like you got to keep some for yourself. You got to take care of, what do they say, tend to the parts of the garden you can reach first.
Yeah. I always like the saying, give 80%, only expect 20. You know?
Sure.
You got to give. You can't give it all, but only expect so much. But when they go over that 20, hey, it's a good thing,
That's
baby.
good.
You know?
Good biz.
You got a favorite Shel Silverstein quote or poem?
I don't. I mean, it was the My Guitar, because it's basically like, I can't quote it verbatim, but it's, you know, what a wondrous thing. Fuck, I can't remember it, but it's basically about a guitar that can play itself, which, you know, in the cosmic stream of things, isn't that what the guitar's doing anyway, man? I'm just a vessel for the universe.
Hell yeah.
If no one's around to hear it, does it really make a noise?
Right. Yeah, I used to have that one memorized, but that was, you know, my brain's been mushed by children and everything else since then. So
I bet. I really like the one, woulda, coulda, shoulda. And it doesn't have any photos or anything, but just the wording is so great. It's all the woulda, coulda, shouldas laying in the sun, talking about the things they woulda, coulda, shoulda done. But all those woulda, coulda, shouldas all ran and hid from one little did.
yep, that's great.
Deep.
Yeah, that shit hits.
You got to do it.
And it is. It's good stuff to get into like a kid's head. That's a motivational poem that obviously you remembered. So it's probably working for somebody else.
I'm a child, man. I'm an adult child, so.
You know, the guy I just ran into dragging a whale across Grant Park.
Yeah, no, I'm a kid. I'm a kid at heart. Well, you know, you've been in the game for so long. Where do you think you'd like to be maybe 5-10 years down the line?
Ooh, hard to say, because again, obviously things are changing so rapidly in technology and all that. So I'd like to first not be replaced by AI. That would be lovely.
Preach.
Man, just doing what I'm doing with a little more stability and maybe a little more income coming from it, you know? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to kind of to see that. I've always been a little hesitant to put 5-year plans together and 10-year plans because, you know, those things often don't happen. I'm more of a, wait for the opportunity and kick the door open kind of guy. And that's always worked for me. And every time I find myself in that dark place of like, oh, I don't think it's going to work this time, it just does, you know? So I think that's the more my attitude is like, let's keep trusting the universe. It's always come through, not always on my timeline, but you know that. I'd love to be running some venue on the South Side that is successful and bringing some cool shit down there. That would be a very cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And still playing and, you know, all that. Maybe I'll put a record out in the next 5 years, which is also hard to do. And you can turn that into a 5-year plan easily because it sometimes takes 5 years to put out a record unless you're well funded or well resourced. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Now you'd mentioned, you know, your distaste in technology with music now, and I think this goes maybe across the board with most musicians, if not all of them. You know, what do you think is the biggest fear that musicians have with AI taking over? I mean, for a guy who's so, you know, like roots and really raw organic music, like I personally don't think that'll ever get replaced. But you see this AI shit now, and it's, you know, it's taking people's jobs. It's taking away opportunity in a way.
I think as musicians, we might be in a unique place to already be veterans of having technology steal our shit, right? So, like, I don't know that anyone's super scared of AI because we've already been through Spotify and SoundCloud and all these things that have turned what used to be a pretty simple equation of, like, you make the album, you print the physical album, and then that physical album gets you the gig. And then you play the gig and you sell the physical album to the people at the gig, and it's a closed loop. And eventually you pay off that album and you can make another one and this and that. Whereas now you make the album, you push a single, then you record a video, and then, you know, you put that up on the streaming services and nothing ever happens. You don't get any money from that, right? I mean, I think they've proven that under a certain amount of plays, you get nothing. Like Taylor Swift gets your money, right? If you don't have a certain amount of plays, period. Not necessarily Taylor Swift, but like your money goes to the upper percentages of the people who are earning on it. So yeah, I think musicians are pretty ready for whatever comes. I use, you know, I don't have a fear of technology. I use ChatGPT and stuff. I think it's a great tool. I think it can be overused, and I don't necessarily like the idea of using it to generate art, although I have in a pinch, you know, because it will do such a good fucking job for something that might cost you $500 if you just need a quick logo for something that's going out that day. But and at some point, I feel like personally, I've had to go have a little bit of a can't beat 'em, join 'em mentality where I go, you know, I did skip TikTok. I did skip all these things that I thought would be a fad, and it turns out I should have fucking did them. Right. Where I'm getting into the AI a little bit. I want to at least be able to use it as a tool. I've used it to even practice. Like I can say something like, what are some ideas I could use over the changes in this jazz song? And it'll hit you with some pretty good answers and give you something good to practice, you know? So I'm into it for that stuff. I don't think it's going to replace roots, actual organic music, right? Because that uncanny valley is going to be really hard to cross. In the same way, I don't know that any of us are going to be going out to see Hollywood blockbusters that are all 100% AI, because there's going to be something missing that they can't figure out how to put in, right? Mm-hmm. And it is that sort of like, there's some mechanism in our brains that is uncomfortable with AI generated stuff. There's just something about it, right? It's that uncanny valley.
Right. And you know, I like you said, you know, I don't see it being an issue at all if you use it as a tool in the proper way of like just to even brainstorm an idea of something. Hey, give me some ideas of some lyrics on something, you know. But having the raw energy and just the human power to go out and perform it, that of course will never get replaced. And if it does, it's gonna be real shitty. It's gonna be like a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic band. And I don't think most people probably won't want to see that, but some do.
You hope too. Like there's been a little bit of some surprise to me to see what people are willing to accept as entertainment. Where, you know, there are bands that are just your standard grab ass garage dad shorts band that aren't very good. I mean, they do their thing and they don't sound bad, but they're just playing like the standard top 40 covers and doing this and that. And you think like, well, people aren't going to be into that. And it turns out everybody in the whole crowd's going nuts for them and not going nuts for the original band that they opened for or whatever, because people like familiarity. People like to be able to sing along to the same songs they've been singing along for 30, 40 years. And once in a while, I'm like, really, everybody, can we step up the, you know, can we raise the bar a little bit for what constitutes entertainment? I haven't used it, and I won't. I promise for now that I'm not going to use it to write songs. I'm not going to use it to say, hey, I need a bridge to this. What should I do? Like, that still to me is very sacred to have to generate inwardly, you know? And some of that aesthetic even came from Second City, you know, some of the stuff I learned there. One of my favorite ways to write songs is the list of 10. And that was something they hammered into us, where you just take a topic and you stream of consciousness, just write 10 things about that thing. And you have your base for what your story or your song is. I've done that. I actually have a list somewhere in a notebook in my basement of every girl I've ever dated, kissed, had a crush on, had a one-night stand with, had a brief relationship with. I mean, there's just big, long list. And every once in a while, if I'm really like, I got to write a song, or if I'm going to, you know, try to run up that hill, I'll do exactly that. I'll just take one of those names, write a list of 10 things I remember. And quite often you get a nice little base of a tune that's not your everyday love song where you're just rhyming love and above and change and same and, you know, all that stuff. So I think it'll be a while before ChatGPT can pull shit like that. But I don't know, maybe not.
It doesn't have that human element in the feel. You know what I mean? Like, a robot has never gone through that severe breakup you did.
And that's what gets you is when you really listen to like a great songwriter, it's a line or a turn of phrase or something that hits you in an experiential way where you know what that feels like and it catches you, right? And ChatGPT doesn't know what anything feels like. So let's hope. Let's hope it never does.
What do you think are the big messages that you want to send out in your music?
A lot of stuff lately has leaned towards, and I've noticed this, and I've even tried to steer away from it a little bit to not just be a one-trick pony, but it's a lot of just like, everything's going to be all right. You know, we're all in this together. There are universal goodnesses that I think will sort of always be there. Good things that will always bring us joy. And there will always be things that bring us down, and we're all in this sort of experience together. I think ends up being, you know, as in the least cheesy way possible that I could put that out. Everything does seem to kind of land on that theme. Like, it's gonna be all right, man. It sucks, but it's gonna be all right.
I love your mentality, man. You've always been such a very easygoing guy. And, you know, on your questionnaire form, you did write out that you wanted to talk about meditation, mindfulness, and Buddhism and its relation to creativity. You know, can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, what's your process?
So that has been something that I've been into. I started meditating with like apps like Headspace and the like about 10 years ago, and I found it to be pretty cool. I noticed immediately that I slept better when I did it, and that I, again, had a little bit more ease. And under this easygoing surface, there's plenty of, you know, shitty anxiety and, you know, depressive, plenty. You know, I wouldn't be a songwriter if I wasn't. So as COVID really kicked in and everybody's mental health stuff really kind of bubbled to the surface, no matter who you were, I leaned into that stuff pretty heavily. I started taking a couple, you know, asynchronous courses where you sign up for the thing and can watch it whenever you want, and got a lot of cool ideas from that, leaning towards mindfulness, insight meditation through people like Jack Kornfield, Sharon Salzberg, and then started getting a little more into it in terms of community. So I started working with a online community called Dharma Moon, It was actually founded by a guy named David Nickturn. David wrote "Midnight at the Oasis." If you remember that song, it was also featured in it was the audition song that Fred Willard's character did in Waiting for Guffman.
I don't think I've seen it. No.
Midnight at the Oasis. It's kind of a cheesy song. Don't tell David I said that. But he was in the music industry, and just a very grounded form of Buddhism. He was also part of the cohort that. Are you familiar with who Ram Dass is?
I don't think so.
Such a fun story. I'll try to tell it quick. Ram Dass was a Harvard scientist that was basically Timothy Leary's partner in LSD experiments back in the day. And they pushed those about as far as it can go. Like they were drinking LSD out of the bottle and feeding it to Harvard kids, and they got fired and in all sorts of trouble for it. And so this dude, Richard Alpert, who was a Harvard psychologist, flew over to India basically to give holy men in India acid and see if it did anything for them. And of course, they flipped the script on him. He met this like guy on a hill under a blanket guy named Neem Karoli Baba, known as Maharaji, not Maharishi. Maharishi was with the Beatles. But and the dude just blew his mind. Ended up being like psychic and having all these kind of powers, and just like turned this Ram Dass dude. Richard Alpert became Ram Dass. He wrote a bunch of books. The biggest one at the time being a book called Be Here Now, which is this kind of chaotic, psychedelic into spiritual journey. Really cool. And that book sort of changed my life when I was in college. So David was part of this cohort that went back with Ram Dass, who was not supposed to tell anybody about this mountain guy. And he came back to America and was like, everybody, let's go. Like, let's all go to India. And those are the folks that came back and really started teaching this spirituality along the spectrum of Hinduism, Buddhism, and that sort of stuff. Jack Kornfield was one of them. Sharon Salzberger was one of them. And then so David was one of them too. And he has this online community where I took a year-long Buddhist studies course with his son and really learned a lot about the structure behind why mindfulness works and where it came from and all that. And then decided to move on to a meditation teacher training program with David, actually, as a teacher. And I completed that, and it really, I mean, like, that, some of the meditations I did really changed my life and helped me unhook attachment to some of my inner workings. I've been a chronic pain sufferer since I was in my 20s, too, just always lower back and sort of pelvic pain that stopped me from doing a lot of stuff. And going through this class and meditating as much as we did really helped knock some of that loose to where it went from a 7 out of 10 to like a 2. Wow. So I found the relief. I got the experiential relief of suffering that brings. And we learned how to teach in a very secular way. You know, you pull the mindfulness stuff out of the Buddhism to be able to teach it. One of my favorite things one of my teachers used to say is you can use mindfulness to become a sniper, right? Like it until you bring in compassion, it's not spiritual necessarily. It's not Buddhism. It's just self-help. So I was I was drawn to the Buddhism side of it quite a bit, and I'm now in community with a group of folks out of Boston. One of the teachers that I went through the teaching program with went on retreat in Costa Rica over December, and it just works for me. I took Bodhisattva and refuge vows, which are kind of the baptism and communion, I guess, if comparison to that, which just basically says that I'm identifying as a Buddhist oriented. And the Bodhisattva vow is really fun because it basically says that you're dedicating your life to ending the suffering of all beings. And there's this like Rambo vibe to it where like, even if I get enlightened, like right when I get to the light is when you go, you know what? Go on without me. I'm going back for the others. It's kind of that, like, wow. It's Buddhist Rambo vibes. But that has helped me tremendously in just so many aspects of my life, period. But when it comes to creativity, and this is something I'm working on to try to start teaching to some of my fellow creatives, it's changed the way I approach music. At the time, before, there's a before and after when it comes to COVID, right? Especially for performers, because we were cut off for so long. And performing and music to me was very commodified. It was like I had this, and I'm sure a lot of comedians have this attitude too, which is like, well, I got my 15 minutes. I'm not hanging out. I'm showing up. I'm doing my 15 minutes, and then I'm out of it. I get paid, and I go. And I sort of had that mentality, like, if I'm going to do it, you better pay me. And once I'm done, I'm not here to hang out and jam and have the jam session afterward or whatever. I'll watch a polite amount of your band and then I'm out of here. And I realized, like, no, that's not the way I want to do it. Like, I do want to get back into the spirituality and just music is like, it's fucking music, dude. It's channeling vibrations. It's like one of the most ancient things we do as people in culture. So I'm doing a lot of unraveling of that right now. And what mindfulness gives you is a glimpse. It gives you a little bit of a pause before your brain does the thing that it's going to do, right? We're all pattern conditioned people. And I just noticed all these sort of negative habits that I had when I was playing music that I could slowly detach and let slip away. So that idea of I'm playing at the sports bar and nobody's paying attention. I'd sit there all pissed off and making weird eye contact with everybody that walked past going, you're going to hit the tip jar? And that's no way to be. Like, that sucks. That sucks for everybody. Nobody's enjoying me playing and I'm not enjoying playing. And it's a closed loop of shit. So starting to let go of some of that stuff and just be able to, okay, no one's paying attention. Awesome. Close my eyes and enjoy this myself and feel the guitar, listen to the guitar, hear what I'm doing. It's knocked stage fright completely out. I noticed I played with a dude named Pat Reedy. I'm playing with him at the Day in the Country Festival this Sunday, June 22nd at Broken Hearts Bar at Morgan and Lake Lawrence. And we played sold out shows at Lincoln Hall and then up at a spot in Madison, Wisconsin called the High Noon Saloon. And usually when it's like I'm walking up in front of 400, 500, 600, 700 people, depending on the venue, and everybody's looking, this isn't a sports bar. You're not getting away with wrong notes and shit. And I used to go, I would be heart beating through my chest. And as I was like, I just noticed, I was like, oh, that's gone. Yay. Like, this is cool. I'm enjoying myself up here and I'm past that. So I feel like some of those skills are something that any creative, whether you're a dancer, comedian, artist, a visual artist, getting to know how your patterning and your conditioning affects how you are in the world, whether you can do something about it or not right away, just knowing and starting to notice that your brain is an organ that does things whether you want it to or not. It produces thoughts, whether you're trying to produce them or not. In fact, it often produces thoughts that you're not trying to produce. I'm ADHD as well, and every time I try to focus on something, my brain goes fucking whew. So yeah, all that together has completely injected a new attitude into my approach to performance, my approach to writing, my approach to learning songs. It's become a lot more fun, organic, and back to what I used to love about this when I would sit in my bedroom in high school and play for hours on end without thinking about it and not worrying about whether I'm getting paid, whether anybody's watching, And it's just good. It makes you feel good, and it makes you nicer to other people. Yeah. I survive traffic a lot better because of meditation and Buddhism.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, for somebody who's looking to get into that, who might be an artist who maybe gets in their own way sometimes, and they can't clear out the BS in front of it, and they're looking to get into mindfulness and meditation, what do you think is the best steps for them to at least get the first step going in that process?
Just start. Get an app. Headspace is okay. I liked Sam Harris's app, which is called Waking Up. It just does, even the free version gives you just a really quick run through of like almost all of the modalities that you run into in Buddhism until you really get into it and start, like, there's 3 stages of Buddhism essentially called the 3 vehicles. And the first 2 are all about first inner work and then expanding that inner work outward compassionately. And then when you get into the stuff that is the more visual elements of Buddhism, where there's demons and gods and taras and dakinis and all this symbolic image, that's the 3rd phase, and that's a toe dip that you don't have to do. That's more for the culturally Buddhist people that were born into it and stuff, the robes and the monks and all that. Whereas with Western Buddhism, it's really it's just like therapy. It's like you work on yourself so that you can be a vessel of helping others. And Sam's app does a really good job of running you through the phases of that and some of the modalities of compassion, meditation, and and mindfulness of thoughts, mindfulness of breath, mindfulness of senses. And then community, like don't be afraid to go check out your local little Buddhist Sangha. That might, there's one in Beverly that meditates every Sunday at the castle. You know the castle, right?
Oh, yeah.
The old Givens Castle that is sort of the symbol of Beverly proper. I went to preschool there, so did my kids. So and I also go into raves there. So that building holds significant meaning for me. It's a cool place to go and meditate. And then it's like any other practice, you got to do it. You can't just do it a couple times and go, all right, I did it. I checked it off. I'm mindful now. It's not going to stick. I even notice after 10 years of doing this, if I take 2, 3, 4 days off, I get squirrely and I have to get back into it.
It's like working out. It's like using a muscle, like you said. It's a muscle. It's an organ. Totally.
If I worked out, I would be able to confirm that.
It's the same thing. It's you gotta keep up with the ground, man. It's like climbing up a sand dune. You keep sliding back if you don't keep moving, right?
Exactly.
What's your take on psychedelic therapy?
Oh, more, please. I love it. I wish I wouldn't have wasted all my good psychedelics on my dumb young self, because I did a lot when I was in my early 20s, and some of it was just stupid. Like, it wasn't for, some of it was really great. It was going out with a group of friends into the woods and really freaking out on some psychedelics and having a great time. And some of it was just like taking a half a hit before work because you're bored and you wanted to spice up your day. And a lot of that stuff, when I developed some anxiety issues and stuff in my 20s, I couldn't fuck with it, because anytime I would eat mushrooms, do anything like that, anxiety would just flop on top of me, and it would be maybe not a bad trip, but I would have to do a lot of shit to steer myself out, or just out-drink the mushrooms were usually the way to do it. So now I've gotten back into it a little. I've done the microdosing thing. And I find it really does, like, it's very hard to describe, but there's just this tiny layer of space that comes from doing that. Like depression becomes a little lighter. Anxiety becomes a little lighter because of that. I have not done like any of the ketamine type stuff, but also like, it was about 2 years ago, I got a little mushroom chocolate bar and ate the whole thing and kind of blew the doors off. Like I was home alone, had the house to myself, and I did the thing. And there was some breakthroughs. Having some of this new modalities of mindfulness, meditation, I was able to lock in really well, and I think really use psychedelics for the benefit, not just to get fucked up and go scream and holler in the woods.
Right.
Which is still fun too. Like do that too, or go take them at a concert. Yeah, fuck yeah. But I think I'm past that phase and into the more therapeutic approach. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of people in my life I wish I could kidnap and take to an ayahuasca ceremony, and I just feel like, this is going to help you. You're going to go do this, or just feed a bunch of mushrooms. But you're not allowed to do that to people.
Womp womp.
Yet.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I think so many things that I've read about it, it's just like they're even saying that they should have politicians do it, just to have that empathy feeling of it, where you feel like you're a part of the universe. It's not just you as this person in public politics and who's up on this podium, but man, you're a real organic being within the world, man, and your actions have consequences. And I think it's important for everyone. I think I know for a fact it would change a lot of the crime in the city if a lot more people did it. But here we are condoning alcohol and other things.
I mean, yeah, if we could go back to the beginning of, what are we picking as our vices? I mean, we went with some rough ones, mm-hmm. Alcohol and being the sort of main thing we do as a culture. It's like you're expected almost to do that. You go to a ball game, you drink beers. You go to whatever.
Especially in Chicago.
We're some drinkers. Wisconsin has its beat, I think, but
but
we do our diligence here. There was a saying, and I feel like it came from Ram Dass in Be Here Now, and I think it was when he fed a bunch of acid to this blanket dude, Maharaji, and it didn't really have any effect. And the guy kind of fucked with him a little bit and was like, I'm all fucked up. And then he was like, no, I'm not. I'm fine. This is nothing. And the guy's like, you just took a lot of fucking acid, dude. And he's like, yeah, this seems like a really cool tool. And the way I think he described it is he said it lets you into the room with God, but you gotta leave.
Mm.
You know, and that's kind of what happens. It's very hard to bring stuff back from a psychedelic trip. I love. Do you know Shane Moss, the comedian?
I don't think so.
He was the bumper voice on Comedy Central for a long time, so you'll recognize his voice immediately. But he's now like the psychedelic comic. He got super into DMT. I'll send you a couple of the podcasts that he did. Some of my favorite podcasts he did with Pete Holmes, where Pete just lets him go and he talks about it. And he really does bring some of that vibe back that you can't, that's hard to pin down, where you just sound like a fucking lunatic describing something that was so vivid to you on your trip, He's pretty good at that. And I feel like this meditation stuff is the hard way to get to that. A lot of the concepts are the same, a lot of the realizations are the same, but you're doing it more organically. Where I remember once, and I've described this, I often describe this to people sort of in regards to this question, is like, there was a time I was on mushrooms and I looked at a roll of toilet paper and I knew immediately, like, it wasn't that I sat there and deduced this, it was that I knew immediately that I was connected to like everything through this roll of toilet paper. Not only the people who worked at the factory that make the toilet paper and package the toilet paper and drive the toilet paper to the store, but the rain that fell on the field that, grew the trees that became the paper that, whatever, and the people that harvested it, and the person that invented toilet paper, the person that invented wiping your ass. It's all right there. And it wasn't that I sat there and spurted this in a series where I was like, holy cow, it's that, then that. It was like you looked at the toilet paper and you just knew that. It just, you grokked it in that open psychedelic space. That's very close to what you do when you get into a meditative state, is that you really start to see the interdependence of things and the causes and conditions that are, the goal in Buddhism is to sort of lose the sense of self. Very similar to the goal in psychedelics is to like
ego death,
right? Yeah. You can get there through meditation. It just takes longer typically. Mm-hmm. But that's a lot of it, is examining, looking for that ego and going, I didn't find it today either. Like I looked, I felt it. It feels like it's there, but I can't find it. The more you keep returning to that space, the more those same things start to kind of grok the same way, where you can look at something and see it as this whole series of interdependent causes and conditions. Mm-hmm. And that's everything. That's music, that's songwriting, that's performing, it's raising kids. It's like all of it.
Amen to that, man.
We are all a big pile of shit that we've been conditioned to believe since the moment you said, oh, me, Jack, right? Jack. Okay. I'm Jack, and all that stuff out there is not Jack, right? Like from that moment on, you're deluding yourself in some way. Mm-hmm. And psychedelics will rip you out of that. Meditation will ease you out of that.
Right. And I think it's something worth noting too is, you're not always going to solve your issues with doing hallucinogenic drugs,
No. And you can't feed them to everybody. There are some politicians I don't want doing any I don't want any more ideas coming into those people's heads. I believe we all know who we're talking about, but sure, there's certain people that no, don't give that guy anything. Just
right. But in the idea of like, you don't abuse it. Sure, have fun with your friends, go out in the forest, do your thing when you're young. But, to have that psychological benefit, you really got to have like a good setting, write down intentions, write out what you want to get out of it. And same, with like you said, with being a songwriter or doing this to find your ego, to build yourself. When you have that stuff written down, man, and even doing it through a meditative course, when you focus on it, you're able to break it down a little bit more. Mm-hmm. It's the toilet paper. It's you really get into the brass tacks of why it is the way it is, and you can really break it down, but do it responsibly, of course. Right.
And what I've noticed, and right along with this, with songwriting and the way that my method of songwriting has evolved, is what I now sort of. It really does come from the void, sort of. It's like something that you're hearing in your inner world, and that you want to capture. I like the Mitch Hedberg joke where he says, every time I think of something funny, I write it down unless there is not a pen nearby, and then I have to convince myself that what I thought was not funny. It is that. Like when I'm trying to write a song, it's way less now about this list of 10 and I'm going to structure it and I'm going to do this. It's like I'm going to listen, I'm going to hear something, I'm going to start copying it on my guitar, and then maybe a sound or a word or a syllable is going to come into my head, and that's where I start from. And so often now I'll get halfway or 2/3 of the way through a song and then realize like, oh shit, this is about this is about this ex-girlfriend, this is about this experience. Whereas sitting down and saying, I'm going to write a song about this ex-girlfriend doesn't yield as satisfying or pure of a result. And that's very much like a trust the process. And then the big thing, one of the biggest parts of noticing and where mindfulness comes in is how fast that fucking jerk-off editor in your head comes in to stop you because you're treading in what it would consider unsafe territory. Like it's like you're listening to these vibrations in your brain. No. That's not what we do. You know, we got to survive. You got to make money here. Like people have to like this. And it's like, shut up. And the amount of times I've had to, and now am becoming more able to get that editor out of the way and say like, no, stop it. I'm going to write this how it is. And then the world's going to get it. And I'm not going to write it for an audience. I'm going to write it for myself or write it for itself. Right. So yeah.
Speaking of your music, I see you also brought your guitar here today too.
I have to bring a guitar everywhere because I'm lefty and no one has a lefty guitar laying around.
Do you think you maybe want to play a couple songs for us?
I would love to.
We'd love to have you perform, my friend.
Let me bust out my lyrics because I am a brain dead dad who can't remember anything.
You're busy. Your brain's on overdrive, man. How old are your kids now?
8 and 6.
Ooh, you got your hands full.
I was told by what turns out to be a liar that things get easier. Like there's like a whole nother world that opens up after your youngest turns 6, and so far, it's absolute bullshit. No, not at all. So yeah, I'm in it, man. They're smart. It's what sucks is they're smart, so you can't really con them like you want to and like think you can. Where you just have some parental trope to be like, hey, this is how this got. They take me to task so often. Like, well, why? What do you mean Santa Claus is blah, blah, blah? And you're like, fuck, man. You're going to figure this out, aren't you? Yeah, I'll get my guitar.
All right, brother.
I'll get her going. And I'm not going to trip on the headphone cord.
All good. We do it all the time. Yeah, we were commenting.
You saw the Polish last name, so I have to, again, be mindful of my clumsiness.
You got a name for your guitar?
The person who built this for me named it. This is built by a dude named Devin Champlin. He was the, this strap's getting in the way. Let me fix this real quick. So there's a guy that builds guitars in Madison, Wisconsin. His name's Todd Cambio. He runs a company called Fraulini Guitars, and he builds specifically guitars that are built in the old-timey way. So like guitars from the 20s and 30s were very much built differently than they are now. Like now they have all these, bracings and all this stuff to make it, to optimize the sound, whereas back then they just didn't know all that stuff, so they had different kinds of bracings, but then those guitars sounded different. So he has this very specialty way of doing things where he builds them in the old way. And he's gotten guitars into the hands of like Ben Harper plays his guitars. I think Mike Seeger before he passed away, which is from the Pete Seeger family. And we used to throw these parties every year where people would come up and play old-timey music, and I went up to one of them and met his apprentice at the time, a guy named Devin Champlin, and he was like, man, I'll build you a guitar, like, if you want. And I was like, cool. And I gave him the specs of a guitar that I really liked, and he was, and the guitar that I liked was like a $6,000 fucking masterpiece at this shop I was working at out in Frankfurt called Down Home Guitars. And he goes, yeah, man, I'll build that for you for like $1,000. And I was just like, oh my God, fuck yeah. So he hand built this whole thing. It's a copy of a Gibson Nick Lucas, which again, I feel like he operated in like the 40s and 50s. But the interesting thing, if there's any guitar nerds out there, most guitars the neck meets the body at either the 12th fret or the 14th fret. That's kind of the two standards. This one meets at the 13th, which you have to sort of round out the back to compensate for that, and it just gets this really interesting, and to me, I like bass. It gets a nice warm bassy sound that I really like. So this is what's funny is he called his company Champ Tone Guitars, and then he got a cease and desist by a company called Champ Tone. So this is one of only probably a dozen guitars that company ever made. So hopefully if he gets famous, I'll be the person with, I think this is number 7. It's got a hand-drawn label, and I believe it's number 7. I had him put the Chicago Stars on the 12th fret, so this is called the Champ Tone Chi-Tone.
Hey.
Yeah, I like it. He's a good dude. He works out of, not Portland, Oregon, one of those other Oregon cities full of hippies. All right, so this is an original. There was a period, I didn't even talk about the songwriter night. I'll talk about it maybe after this. I like running songwriter showcases and nights. I'm really into songwriting. So when I worked for Lagunitas Brewing Company for a while, I did all their music booking at the Chicago Tap Room, and I used to run a Thursday night songwriter showcase, which was not an open mic. It was an invite only. I would invite songwriters to come and sing to a crowd that didn't care. So it turned into, I call it the songwriter's workout, where it was like, hey, sing the songs you're nervous about, sing the songs you're working on. And then there became a thing where it would be, I'm going to send out a prompt word, try to write a song for this thing. And I'll do the same. So every week I was writing a new song, no matter what. And this is where this really inward listening came from. And some of these songs were fucking horrible. And they were one and done. You know, I'd play it, sing it, and that's it. I would let us never speak of this moment again. But out of that, I wrote about 40 songs, and out of them, about a dozen were okay, and then 3 or 4 really bubbled to the top, and this is one of them. What did I decide to call this? I changed the name to something cooler, and then I forgot to put it in my notes. So this was originally called Midnight.
Yeah, maybe we can just turn that a little bit.
I might have bumped this a little bit while I was, point that there. All right, cool. This is originally called Midnight. I'm trying to figure out what I turned it to, but whatever. This is dedicated to a friend of mine down in Southern Illinois when I went to college and then dropped out. I used to hang out at a bar called the Stagger Inn, where I became a regular, and that's where I got my start playing music. One of my biggest supporters was an older dude named Gary Meyer. He was that guy who would buy the album every time. He would come to the show every time. He'd buy you drinks every time. When the internet came around, he was the first like on every post. He was the first guy to share the music. He was just that dude. And he passed away pretty suddenly and pretty surprisingly. Since he was an older dude, he wasn't putting his entire life on the internet, so I didn't know he was sick. I didn't know all this and that. I just started seeing Facebook posts that were like, oh man, Gary, we'll miss you. And I'm like, what the fuck? Fucking Gary died. So this song is dedicated to him and a specific time in my life that I was doing a shitload of psychedelics, running around Edwardsville, Illinois, and hanging out with just the best people ever. And I was a young man with no real problems, and a whole world in front of me. Gary owned a studio. Gary rented a space in an art studio above the Stagger Inn, so that was where we'd take a set break, go upstairs, smoke pot with Gary, come down. So there's a little bit about kind of that vibe in there. Midnight, I guess I'll call it for now until I remember what it's really called. Midnight, all them girls come out and chase you around the graveyard. Open my mouth, that joke fell out and everybody heard. Holes in the clouds and the moon come down and sharpen all the angles. Don't mind me, ain't nothing to see, just floating undisturbed. But oh my man, the light went out, way out. Climb the stairs, darkness low. You can call your dogs or call them off. Midnight boy, that bottle come out and it chased me around the table. Laughed out loud, a little too loud, and everybody turned. Everybody turned around, spinning around the basement. Can't quite get the words all out, just spit and roll and slur. Oh, my man, the light went out, way out. Climbed the stairs of darkness, oh, you can call your dogs or call them off. Midnight autumn songs run out, we chased them, just like all them girls in town teased us at the bar. Takes a man, a gentleman, to paint such pretty pictures. Mercy on the sinners, for they know just who they are. Oh, my man, the light went out, way out. Climbed the stairs of darkness, oh, you can call your dogs or call them off. That's it. Rest in peace, Gary. Supportive dude.
Call your dogs off. Where did that come from?
That specific reference. So Gary was also a neighbor. I was living in a house of absolute chaos, like band house. You know, I lived with my bass player, and then it would take too long to describe it. But my best friend at the time and songwriting partner was this very charismatic, like almost otherworldly dude. If you've ever read, you know, Kerouac, he is Neil Cassidy. Just that dude, right? He's the guy who, if it was like, we're all too drunk to drive home, but like Matt'll do it. His name's Matt Meinert. If it was like, well, Meinert drive, it's like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. Like nothing bad can happen to that guy. He can drive 200 miles an hour and he's just got angels over him. He was just that dude, the most charismatic Mr. Steal Your Girl you've ever met. So House of Chaos, we had dogs that taught each other to open and close doors. So what would happen constantly is one of the dogs would open the door, they'd take off and go run out into the woods. We were kind of backed up against some woods and roll in some dead shit, and then come back, close the door behind them, and one of us would get home from work with just two rotten, shit-covered dogs in the living room, but no explanation because the door's closed, right? And there was one time that they did that, and for no reason, must have just been like they smelled a friend of ours. They wound up at Gary's house. We found them sitting on his porch. We were like, what the fuck? So that's where the dogs part came from.
Very cool. The guitar I found, it was really cool. It's a very happy-go-lucky song, man. It's for midnight. It's definitely a campfire song for sure.
Yeah, it's a little bounce. Got a little bounce to it. I've thrown it at a couple of my bands, and we've made some decent sounds with it. Possibly will be recorded in the near-ish future. I just got to get my shit together. Something I've said, I could say that next year. I've said it 3 years ago, but
we're all saying it.
Some goddamn day I'm going to record that one.
You got any other ones you'd like to perform?
Sure. Oh, well, since we talked about Matt Meinert, my sort of original introduction to the stage, this was the dude I met my freshman year of college who, I got to grab one more thing, though.
He's grabbing a joint.
This is a dude I met my freshman year of college, and I was making a decision during that time as to whether or not I wanted to return to this town that I wasn't super into. My first year of college in the dorms just kind of sucked. I didn't fit in. Me and one other dude, like-minded dude, a guy named Jared Harris, kind of found each other and switched roommates to live together. And he wasn't sure he was coming back. I wasn't sure I was coming back. We were both friends with this dude named Matt Meinert, who had a wonderful voice. He wrote cool songs. He played cool songs. He's the guy who introduced me to music like John Prine and Jim Croce and sort of real rootsy stuff. And we immediately became thick as thieves. And then I came back up to Chicago, and I was kind of a rave kid in 1999. Like, I spent that summer going to house parties and big raves and the Dalton Expo Center and all these things. And I had it in my mind that I wanted to be a house DJ because I could see one person could move a crowd of 15,000 people just so massively. So I'm making this decision, like, I don't know if I'm going to go back down there and try to play music with Matt, or if I'm going to stay up here and get some DJ equipment and just start doing that. And I got a call on an answering machine, right? He left a message and just said, he goes, "Hey, man, I rented the house, so we're a band now." And I was like, oh, okay. So I gave it a shot. I went down, and almost immediately, like the first week we were down there, we had gigs, we're playing and doing the thing, and I just never looked back. And we were best. We were known as Matt and Matt, the Matts. Or Matt Squared, or Matty and Matt, or whatever. But we were tied at the hip. We were almost never apart for the next 4 years. We wrote a lot of songs together. We did a ton of psychedelics together. He was, again, this charismatic kind of Hunter S. Thompson, like, just, there was no stopping him. There was never a lull in energy. And I was just kind of second fiddle, tagging along. I was just the guy who was like, he's the fucking main guy. I'm just here along for the ride. Unfortunately, we got we got caught growing weed by the Edwardsville Police Department, who were not cool with it at the time. This was not in the era of legal weed by any stretch of the imagination. And they treated it like they fucking got Walter White, right? Like... And Matt got arrested and went down with like felony charges and all this crazy shit. Nothing happened to me because we weren't growing it in my house. We were growing it in his. So they just knew, the cops knew I was connected, and they decided to make my life kind of a living hell. It ran me out of town, basically. Like, that's one of my claims to fame, is I've been run out of a town like a villain cowboy for creative gardening. But so talking about the prompts, 2 weeks in a row, first prompt was leaving, and I wrote a song about getting kicked out of town. And then the second prompt was about arriving. Returning. And so Matt got really into cocaine, really bad. And not just doing it, but supplying it. I think he was responsible for most of the cocaine from Springfield, Illinois, on down through the rest of Illinois. Like, it was a lot. And he got out of that world a little bit, moved down to Texas, had a family, was still doing a lot of things that could get him killed. And we had a falling out. He went through a patch where you couldn't hang out with him. He was just a cocaine maniac. So everything was a 5-day bender, and you were probably getting punched in the face at some point. We reconnected when I got married. And started our relationship up again, and it was going good, and he wasn't doing any of that shit, and it wasn't always like this, oh God, he's going to die. I'm waiting for that phone call. He's going to die. He's going to die. And then he went fishing with his son, and he fucking hit a log with his boat, and he fell off, and the propeller hit him, and he fucking died.
Jeez.
The craziest part is his 2-year-old, redneck little shit from Southern Illinois, moved to Texas, the boat beached after that happened. His 2-year-old got out of the boat, spent the night in the woods by himself, and then found the cops himself in the morning. Like, he found the search team, came walking out of the woods and was just like, I need some juice. Mm-hmm. But it took him days to find the body of my friend, and they finally did, and it was like this very devastating thing for my friend group from down there. And it just so happened that one of our other friends was getting married like 3 weeks later. So our reunion for the wedding was hella sad, right? So this song kind of reflects that. There's also a ghost story in it. I'll say it real quick. But when we all pulled down to the hotel, so Stag Beer, the other tattoo I have here is the Stag Beer logo. If you're familiar, it's essentially the old style of Southern Illinois. Like, it's the beer to order in a redneck bar so you don't get beat up. And it's pretty good. It's made by Heilman, though, and they skip right past Chicago and bring it down there. So that was our symbolic, like, thing, Stag Beer. And when I pulled into the hotel that we were all staying at for the wedding, here's one other quirk is Minert was known for kind of ruining weddings. He's the guy that would like steal a bridesmaid, or would pull the fire alarm, or just like fight the groomsmen or whatever. He's just always known for behavior at weddings. So pull in, get to the hotel, pull up in the spot where you pull up to like unload your shit before you park. And my friend Andy came out and he's like, hey man, you need anything? I'm running to the store to get some Stag beer. And the second he said Stag beer, the transformer on the pole next to the hotel exploded. Like on those words, he said Stag beer. The transformer exploded, set a swath of trees on fire, and power was out for a good quarter of Edwardsville, Illinois from that moment on. In fact, I had my son was 6 months old, and my parents came down with me to like just babysit, and they spent the night in a hotel with no power, which was fun for them. And with a 6-month-old. So this song is about. Sorry, I bumped it again. This song is about returning and about that trip. But you know what? I do it a little lower than that. There it is. Driving, making time, passing Springfield, down 55. Staunting exit right, the gas and tire signs lit up bright. And them towers up ahead, blinking slow, blinking red. Keep on till we don't. The sign says welcome, but townies won't. But I still dream about you now and then. Know I write them down sometimes, man, it's tough to read them back again. Time took its time playing out yesterday. You, not quite a stranger, you showed up big time right away. Lord, a terrible storm took the power, took the spark, left a terrible nothing in this hotel in the dark. I still dream about you now and then. I know I write them down sometimes, man, it's tough to read them back again. I still dream about you now and then. Oh, I write them down sometimes, man, it's tough to read them back again. Rest in peace, Maddie. 2 Dead People songs.
Yeah.
Man, they hit us in the feels.
Good.
Ooh,
Good.
man.
That's what it's supposed to do.
The electric, the dark hotel room. I love the pre-story before the song too. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. He didn't manage to ruin the wedding, though. The power did not go out at the wedding, so
That's good.
mission not accomplished there, Maddie. You got to do something. You got to try again next time one of us gets married, buddy.
Yeah, send in a tornado maybe.
There you go.
Yeah. Whew, man. I got the chills. I don't know about you. Man, that was cool.
Thanks, man.
And what's your writing process like when you're sitting down to write? Do you light a candle? You smoke a little J? What's your go-to?
There's no necessarily pregame for it. It's It really is about catching the wave of an idea when it hits you. I've noticed that even if I try to catch just the beginning of it, like if I hear something and I go, oh shit, that sounds cool, I'm twirling around on the guitar and like a melody pops into my head. If I only put that in my little voice notes and I'll come back to it later, it just piles up and becomes something that is in the pile of things I never finish. So it really comes down to being like, no, I have to stop what I'm doing, which means I have to have the time to do that and the space to do that and follow it through. And when I do that, same as what happened with that song, I started with that prompt of returning and really tried to listen to what my body and what my innermost self, what the void, was speaking to me. And it took me a while to really realize what I was writing and that it was about this experience of going back down to this town with such a heavy loss weighing over the experience. And still having a joyous experience where I'm seeing my friends for the first time in a long time. It's a wedding. My buddy's getting married, like all these good things are happening, but in the background, we're like, fuck, man, it's not the same, Yeah. So that's what it is, man. You just got to follow it through.
It was powerful, man. It was very, very powerful.
Thank you.
I think we got time for one more. Do you got one more in you?
I'm getting a little parched, so
no
maybe
worries.
not. But I'd like to. What I would, I guess, like to pitch is the related to all the songwriting stuff show that I do now with a couple of guys. One of them being Lawrence Peters from the Lawrence Peters outfit. The other being Brandon Good, singer-songwriter that moved here a shortish time ago. That's been really doing his thing on the country side of things. I think he used to. Who did he play? Was it Flatfoot 56? He was in a fairly famous band for a little while too. Out of the loop, I forget, but I think it was Flatfoot 56. I might be wrong. Fuck. Sorry if I am, Brandon. But he's doing his thing. We're all doing our thing, and we decided to converge and actually they brought me on board after it already started. But it's a songwriter night, similar to what I used to do at Lagunitas at the Hideout once a month. But instead of being the standard, like sit on a stool, just acoustic guitar, one person at a time, we invite you to bring your band so that we can hear, so that an audience can hear what these songs sound like in their full glory, right? And we still include, we took that idea of the prompt word and we use that now for that, and which is really cool because not only do you get to see how a songwriter takes a prompt and runs with it, because like, let's say the word is sweatpants, right? Or whatever it is. Some people take
south
that.
Side of you.
Yeah, right. I keep trying to push that word. I'm like, sweatpants this month. No, nobody wants to do sweatpants.
I just creased and ironed my St. Rita sweatpants.
No, but what you get is some people take that as very loose and just the word might not show up in the song might not. It's just like you take that and the idea goes from there. Some people write a song about sweatpants. And then the other cool layer is seeing how they teach it to their band, knowing you guys don't have that much time to learn these songs. It's not like we're all living in a garage together like back in the day. We're all adults. So to be able to see like the unfolding of talent that comes with someone writing a new song, teaching it to their band, and then performing it for the first time, super duper cool. So we do that at the Hideout on a Thursday every month, and the next one coming up is July. Where is it? Please tell me. I have it on my calendar. I think we said the 10th. I'll double check and make sure I correct anything on the socials with this too, but I believe it's July 10th.
The Hideout is such a cool place too.
It's the best.
I was just looking on to because I saw that you had it on your question form, and I was just like, I gotta do some research on the Hideout. I didn't know it was a boarding house back in the day.
Oh, there's so much history to that place.
Yeah. Board house turned speakeasy turned just a local bar. That was the Hideout. It was really kind of a had to know it basis. It wasn't they didn't advertise it or anything like that. It's a cool spot.
Oh yeah, July 10th is the
July
next one.
10th.
July 10th is the next one. We do 3 artists, one of them being a host, which will be the Lawrence Peters outfit this time around. We got Andy Miller and the 145s are doing their record release as the headliner at that one. and I forget who else we have. I'm sorry, but we always have 3 artists, one being a host, and then we add a song. We also have them do a Chicago cover, so a song that inspired you by another Chicago artist. So we've had some really cool interpretations of stuff.
Sweet.
Across the board too. It's geared towards kind of country Americana, but you can kind of do what you want too. And so like I've covered Ohm, which is Macy Stewart and Sima Cunningham. We've seen covers of like Jason Molina. I'm waiting for someone to do Jesus Lizard, but no one's done it yet. Or Ministry or something else that's loosely out of Chicago. But yeah.
Some country Kanye would be pretty cool.
Country Kanye. Well, let's give him a minute to figure his shit out before
cool
we give him any of his flowers. But yeah, that's the vibe. Like,
Very
get
cool.
weird, get creative.
Go Chicago.
Yeehaw.
Yeah, yeehaw. Now, if there was one song that you've always wanted to write, what do you think that song would be?
Oh, God.
Also, Lawrence said, "Thrifty Kid is the middle band."
Thrifty Kid is the middle
on July
band.
10th.
Lawrence, you listen the whole time?
You're
It's
a
crazy.
good man, Lawrence.
You're a good man, Lawrence. He is. He's a supportive fella. Actually, the last time I did something like this, it was with him because during the Hideout's COVID shutdown, Lawrence had his own little talk show on their streaming service. So
Oh, cool.
we talked for a good while about some cool shit on that. A song I wish I could write. I just wish songwriting mattered a little more. Like I look at this world we got before us and the turmoil and all this stuff, and I don't think it's super unique. I think the late 60s were similar, right? Where the world felt like it was falling apart, the country felt like it was being torn in two, all these other things, and you had like a galvanizing force, like something like Bob Dylan sort of almost narrating it poetically. And now I don't know where that is. I know it's not happening with, sorry Swifties, but Taylor Swift is not the Bob Dylan of this generation. You could start to look
Timothy
towards
Chalamet is.
you could start to look towards hip hop towards some of that, but I think, the people that really have the most poetic voices in hip hop are using it to do hip hop stuff. Like Kendrick, right? Yes, he's writing for the culture and he's doing a lot, but a lot of it is he wrapped a lot of it up in just beefing with Drake or just, maintaining other beefs and dominance and the tropes that come with hip hop. So I'd love to be the next Bob Dylan, or I'd love to see the next Bob Dylan, let's say that, and write the song that makes everybody go, what are we doing, right? Like, everything is blowing in the wind. There are only a certain amount of roads a man can walk down before you call him a man. And I feel like we are kind of missing that. There are people out there doing it, but they're not getting that sort of cachet and play that the 60s got.
They're not getting the shelter from the storm.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I could just be old and out of touch. That's fine too. Like, I get it.
They're out there, though. They still are out there. That Oliver Anthony guy with that Rich Men from Richmond song, that song really hit a lot of folks. He also just dropped a new one, Scornful
I saw that.
Woman.
I saw that.
Killer. That was a great song.
But look how quick, and I was kind of part of it, like look how quick he got picked apart and didn't really have much of a redemption arc from that, right? Because he said something about fat people and fudge rounds, and which was a little like, oh, you kind of tainted it a little bit, dude. The song had some good sentiment, and now you're kind of punching down, right? Yeah. That's what I think a lot of us songwriters saw it as, like, I can't fully endorse this, right? Because somewhere in the middle of it, due to your experience, I've listened to interviews with him. I don't have a beef. I'm not like, fuck that guy, cancel that guy. But there was just a point where I was like, you gotta watch what you say a little bit, and punching down should kind of always be off the table.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yes, I agree that guys like that are chipping away, perhaps guys and gals like that are chipping away at some of those boundaries between us and good, organic, soul felt music.
Yeah. There's still messages that need to be said out there. The world is always changing. The world is always adapting and changing in ways we probably don't want it to. And I think that's a beautiful thing about music, is you're able to make those claims and you're able to make those statements of saying, hey, this is fucked up. This is not all right. How many roads must I walk down before I become a man? There's always that message out there that needs to be said.
Yep. Well, we're saying it. Damn it.
Hell yeah.
Sunday, June 22nd at the Broken Hearts Bar.
Boom.
Be there, baby. Well, we're getting about just that time to start wrapping
Cool,
up here.
yeah, man. This went by fast.
It goes by really quick, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone's like 2 hours, really?
Yeah. No, that's how Rogan does it, man. He just makes it fun.
He does it like 3 hours.
Well, yeah,
though.
that's where it gets like, okay, I don't need to hear about wrestling holds
Cross
for
bros
3 hours.
for the next, yeah. I'll sometimes skip ahead. I'm like, I know the last 3 episodes you've talked about your crossbow, bro. We get it. I still like it. It's cool, but I don't. Well, before we wrap up, is there any last messages you want to send out to the world? Anything you want to say? Any shout outs you want to give anyone?
Ooh, shout out to my mom. It's her birthday.
Hey,
Good old
happy
Maggie
birthday.
Gandurski holding it down on the South Side for an indiscriminate amount of years, right? 49, I think. I think she turned 49 this year, I believe, right?
That's a good number. Happy birthday, Maggie.
No, she's killing it. She's my rock and just the most supportive human being out there. So I guess my message is love your moms, everybody. They're good people.
Amen to
And
that.
go inward.
Go inward.
There you go.
Go inward. Fix your own shit.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. Well, Matt, thank you for joining us, man. We
Dude,
really appreciate
this
you
was
coming
great.
out. And I appreciate the enthusiasm too. When we put out that call, we're like, hey, who wants to join us? Immediately you hopped on. You're like, yo, get me on, bro. Let's
Hey, I
do
was
it.
staring at my phone at the time. Might as well capitalize.
Yeah. And you and I go way back, and I was like, oh, no question. Matt's got to
Yeah.
be on the show ASAP. But man, we really appreciate you making your way out here and playing some songs for us and telling us a little bit about your music. And, you know, I really want to encourage you, man. Keep pushing forward, brother. You got some
Thank you,
beautiful messages, and you got a wonderful voice and a wonderful talent. And I just want to say, keep pushing forward, brother. The South Side needs more dudes like you.
Ooh, I
They do.
appreciate that. And we're working on it. I made one from scratch, so he'll grow up and be a dude like me, hopefully. But yeah, that's the goal down there is trying to get some like-minded folks on the same page.
Well,
Definitely.
you're doing the work, brother. You're absolutely doing the work, and from what I've seen too, you know, we were talking about kind of the fall of the art scene, but really like because of guys like you and I'm gonna name drop a little bit.
Do it.
Uncle Sexy, my boy TJ Kennedy,
He's doing it. That's the boy right there.
Pat
Yeah.
Egan, all those guys.
Yeah.
They're Mouth Breather podcasts. All those guys are really pumping a lot into the South Side art scene, and I want to congratulate you guys.
Definitely.
Keep fucking doing it,
Well,
man.
and
They
taking
need
it out elsewhere. That's the nice thing too. Is for a long time the South Side just had its own like the bands on the South Side play on the South Side and they don't come north. And a lot of those guys, Uncle Sexy, Shannon Baker, really
Baker,
kicking
yeah.
ass down there, man. She's a wonderful songwriter, and you can catch her like playing at an Oak Lawn bar tonight, but then at Beat Kitchen or Hideout or Martyrs another night, and it's.
Her new album was terrific
Yeah.
too. I really enjoyed it a lot. We actually had her on the very first Talk Wins episode we ever did.
No way.
Yeah, we did in the room next door over here. We did a big holiday spectacular, and yeah, Shannon Baker came on,
Oh, rad.
as well as a lot of other friends from the Beverly scene. So,
South Side represent.
Southside represent. Gotta love it.
Yeah, buddy.
Gotta love it. The Shirish. Well, Matt, thank you again, brother. We sincerely
you.
appreciate it. And well, we're going to send it on out here for you guys. Again, for all of you guys interested in hearing more about Matt Gandurski's music, go check out down in the description below. We're going to have his link on his YouTube and some more information down there. Check it out. Please share it. Share it with your friends. Share this episode with your friends too. It doesn't cost you a single penny to just hit that like and share button, and it means the world to us artists. But yeah, at the end of every show, me and Jay always send you guys out with some words of wisdom, some things to walk away from with the show. I think Matt said it there. Call your mamas. Moms are very important. If you got heavenly mamas, send up a prayer up above and go inward, man. I think that'll be my challenge maybe for everybody. Either call your mama or maybe try practicing some meditation. Go
They
inward.
do go hand in hand.
They really do.
You often could use a little meditation after talking to your mom.
And some people claim it's therapeutic too to
Yeah.
do it. So yeah, go inward, man. And go inward. Do some self-reflection these days, and make the world a better place.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So with that being said, thank you guys all for joining us here at Hawkwinds Radio Picture Show. Again, we're here every Wednesday night at Q4 Radio in the beautiful Ukrainian Village neighborhood of Chicago. And again, if you guys know of anyone who might be interested in being featured on the show, please send them our way. We'd love to interview and see what other artists are out there. We'd love to have you come on the show and tell your story. And again, Matt, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
tonight,
you.
brother.
Thank you for doing what you do too.
I appreciate
The
it.
artists appreciate it.
Fighting the good fight, brother. Viva la arts. Viva la arts. Well, with that, thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great night. Happy Wednesday. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
Love, peace, and chicken.